Today we're going to learn how to use Google Drive to make a simple timeline. So I've opened up my own Google Drive, and I'm going to enter into my Intro to Tech folder. There's where we had the word cloud from the other day. We're going to make a new file, but we're not going to use docs, sheets, or slides. We're going to click on More, and we're going to open up Google Drawings. Google Drawings is similar to Microsoft Publisher in the case you've ever used that. I'm going to go ahead and give it a title, and for now I'm just going to call it Technology Timeline. And all the main tools are up here at our disposal. We can draw lines, we can draw various shapes. If we want to have text, we have to have a specific text box. We can't just draw a rectangle, for example, and expect to write inside of it. That would require a text box. And here's where we would add an image. So we're going to use a combination of these tools to create a simple timeline. The first thing I'm going to do is right-click on my background and choose a background color. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and choose white. Next, I'm going to go ahead and choose a rectangle, which will be the timeline itself. There are different ways that we could do this. For example, we could put the timeline down here and have various lines for different events coming off of it like this. I'm pressing Control Z or Command Z to undo. I could alternately put the timeline in the center. And if I really want it in the center, I can right-click on it, by the way, and press Center on Page horizontally and vertically. Now I know it's in the center. And I could have different lines coming off of it on each side. So first event, second event, third event, etc. It's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and go with this where it's in the center. If I wanted to change the color of the timeline itself, I have that. When I have Control Z, I can do that up here. When it's selected, I have these tools where fill color is one of them. I can make it red or a darker blue. I can also choose whether it has a stroke or a line around it and how thick that is. So that would be a thick line. One point would be much thinner. And I can choose the color of that. So if I wanted for some reason to have a yellow line and make it very thick, there you go. When we were doing Adobe Illustrator, that was called a stroke weight, by the way. So the next thing we need to do is pick a topic. So for this assignment, we're going to have 5 things on our timeline, and all those things need to be related as some kind of technology. So computer technology, cell phone technology, video game technology, those are all sort of categories of technologies. And you're going to pick 5 things that happened in the history of that technology and chart them on this timeline in the proper order. So for example, I've always been interested in planes and in aviation, so maybe I want to do the history of aviation or the history of flight. So let's go ahead and add a title to our timeline, and we're going to do that by inserting some word art. And I'm just going to call this the history of aviation. And I'm just going to move that up. Doesn't need to be quite that big. Make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to right click on it, and we are going to center on the page horizontally. We are not going to center on the page vertically because that would do this again. So I'm going to undo that. But now it's centered. Once again, if I have it selected, I can change the fill color and the line color. Right now I have the blue and the yellow, which is fine for now. So I'm going to stop for a second inside of here, and I'm going to go into the internet, and I'm going to find 5 facts about the history of aviation, and I'm going to chart them on my timeline. So here I'm at Google, and I'm going to see if I can figure out when the first powered flight was. When was the first powered flight? And it's going to pull this from Wikipedia for me, and I know it to be true, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. According to Smithsonian, the Wright brothers, heavier than air, December 17th, 1903. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to copy and paste this. Not going to do it. I'm going to put it in my own words. So I'm going to go back to my timeline. I'm going to draw a line, taking the line tool. I'm going to draw a short line. I'm going to grab the text box tool. I'm going to draw a text box. And I'm going to put that in my own words. The first powered flight. Let me change that. The Wright brothers made the first powered flight in 1903. It's simple, it's succinct, it tells what it needs to tell, but I didn't copy and paste it. I've said who did it, whether that was an individual, whether it was a company, and I've said when they did it, and I've said what they did. Those are the three things that we need to have in this text box. The last piece for this one is I'm going to go and look for the Wright brothers plane, or something that makes sense. I could have a picture of them if I wanted to. Here's a picture of their plane. I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and do copy image. I'm going to come back, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to paste the image. Make it much smaller, and we'll put it on the timeline sort of like this. I think this would look better, the text box, if it had an actual outline around it. So we're going to go ahead and give it a 1 pixel black outline, and that looks much better. Please notice that one thing that isn't true is the line is not on top of the picture. If for some reason it is, that would look pretty bad. So I can right click on it and I've got to order. If I say bring to front, now the line's in front of the picture. That doesn't look very good. I'm going to right click again and say order, and I'm going to send to the back. And you can place things kind of like layers from Illustrator by using those functions right there. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find 4 more facts that will fit on my history of aviation timeline. So I'm moving right along here, and I found this picture of Chuck Yeager's plane. He's the first person to break the sound barrier. And I want to use it on my timeline, so I'm going to go ahead and make it smaller. But I've noticed the picture's got a lot of sort of empty space that I don't need. This space down here particularly. I just really want a picture of the plane itself. So I have some options up here. I can go ahead and crop the image. So I'm going to make it smaller by dragging these black bars this way. That was a mistake. I meant to grab the black bar. There we go. And I'm just cropping the image so that I only really see the plane. I can pull this one a little bit. And this one a little bit. I'll leave some of the trail there, and I'll press enter. Now I'll make the whole thing a little smaller. And now it fits a little bit better on my actual timeline. So here's my timeline. I have 5 things. They go in order. I can't stress that enough. They start up here. The next one is this one. So 1903, 1927, 1947, 1969, and then 1976. There's 5 of them, and it looks nice. So things are connected properly. The lines, for example, aren't just like drifting in space like that. At the bottom of my page, I made a smaller text box with a smaller font, and I've included my name and my date. That's also a requirement. So the project needs to have a title, 5 things for your topic, a self-written description for each one, and a picture for each one. In most cases, you're going to take a snapshot of things and turn them into me, but when you use Google Drive, there's actually a better way. When you go to JupyterEd and you go to turn in your assignment, there's actually an option where you can link your Google Drive to your JupyterEd, and you can go in that way and turn in assignments. But it's a little bit tricky. So when I finish talking right now, there's going to be about a minute where I explain to you how to actually turn in your work properly on Google Drive. If for some reason you can't get it to work, then take a screenshot and turn that in. I think there's some confusion about how to turn in assignments using Google Drive on JupyterEd. So I'm going to go through it real quickly to make sure that you know how to do it, because I think some people think they've turned in some assignments and they haven't. So I'm going to select the Select from Google Drive option. It's going to open up my Google Drive. I'm just going to go and pick any old file. It's going to take me back to JupyterGrade. At this point, I have not turned anything in. What has happened is that file I just clicked has showed up here in a turn in a file or a link box. Now I can click on it. Now it has been turned in. Until you see something underneath this turned in heading, nothing has been turned in. I think for quite a few of you, you skipped that last step and you think you turned in your work and you definitely didn't. So luckily, it's saved in Google Drive on the cloud, so you don't have to worry about not having it. So go back and make sure that for any zeros you have actually turned in the assignment.